Hello everyone, welcome to River Talk of in 2016, the first River Talk of this semester and this year. Today we'll be talking about the Flint Water Crisis, and today we have Savanah, Heather, and Kylie who are going to be talking about the water crisis. And first things first, I will also talk in December 14, 2015. Flint declares a state of emergency of for their water, and then January 5th of 2016 Mr. Snyder, the mayor, states of emergency, or he declares state of emergency for Genesee County, which includes Flint. On the other hand, let's go way back to the April 25th, 2014, where kind of this all started, where the city switches its water supply from Detroit's system to the Flint River. The switch was made as a cost-saving measure for a struggling majority black city. Soon after, residents began to complain about the water's color, taste, and odor. The report raised concerns about the bacteria that's also in the water. And then also in October 2014, General Motors plant in Flint stops using the water because they are saying that it's corroding the car parts. So does that tell you that something is definitely wrong with the water, or is it just me?
Something might be wrong with the water.
I completely agree with that.
Well, Erin, I feel that when you have an incident that begins in April of 2015 and it goes on for about 18 months before they finally are declaring a very concerning state of emergency, you probably could have looked back at clues to notice that there was a very big issue with the water. And I don't think it's a question of if there was a problem with the water, I think it's why did they not see the problem earlier. And I actually think it's a matter of a mistake made by the Environmental Protection Agency, and it's like they're in denial, in my opinion. And in a modern times where we are so untrusting of our government, we have so many reasons to doubt what officials say, especially state selected officials that the people didn't even vote on. It really just doesn't help the cause.
All right. With the help and the cost, like as you say, water is probably the most important resource that everybody needs. So, if people are saying something is wrong, then why didn't the people, like the high people like Dennis Muchamore and the governor Rick Snyder, listen to them?
I think it's neglect. It's not a mistake. I think it is pure neglect, because there had to have been signs, at least, clear water, looks good. If you see dark water, muddy, murky, that should be your first warning. And it just sparks investigations immediately as to why they failed to take hold of this problem.
Mark Edwards, he's an engineer, professor at the Virginia Tech. He was one of the people who helped uncover the pollution problem, and he actually said, quote, "If it's not criminal, I do not know what is." And he also described the situation in Flint as a misguided switch, a sloppy testing, and there was a slow government response, which was kind of strange. And it's kind of makes you wonder what took them so long to try to help the situation, or tell people that it is dangerous. So.
All right. So as going on that, as Flint. So what should the people, or what should the public think? What are the issues for having that clean, or having that there's stuff in the water go from affecting the city and the other the whole state of Michigan?
Well, this doesn't just put Flint, the city of Flint, in a problem. It puts the whole state of Michigan. Not only does it have one of the most poorest cities in Detroit, they have to pay for all this, and this is coming out of the state fund, so it's not just affecting the residents of Flint, it's also affecting everyone else.
Well, and you know what? Actually, Rick Snyder did reach out to President Obama. He did request federal aid for this crisis, which, you know, a lot of the blame is being put on Governor Snyder, and I think that happens a lot to the big man, per se, when you have issues like that, but I feel that it really comes down to the Department of Environment Quality and the Environmental Protection Agency, because these people, this is their job. Their job is to know if this water, the most basic necessity to live, is safe for you to ingest. And in a city of 100,000 people that are not economically stable, I don't think that risking water quality that's the last thing that you would really want to do. You're raising a generation of young children who are now affected by this lead content. And it's very concerning, it's very sad, because they're going to see the long-term effects of this, whether it's now or in 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Even today, some children's blood has been tested positive for lead, which is a potent neurotoxin, and it's linked to several learning disabilities, lower IQ, and behavioral problems, which is really not what this city needs from their youth. They need bright young children to hopefully try to get them out of this mess that they're in.
So what should the public do about the leaders who obviously, like, they kind of, like you say, they didn't really warn them that much, but like the public figured out like there was drinking water. What should they do with the leaders? Okay.
I think it should be under federal investigation at the very least, which it is. It is being investigated, and you know, a lot of officials have said, no, oh well, we're investigating if there was criminal activity or not. But I don't understand how it could be in question when you have people. I mean, lead is a poison.
I think since they were aware of it, it's you know, that's a problem. They were aware and they didn't do anything, and these people's lives are now at risk, and all these children that now have disabilities and, you know, problems, and they had no choice but to use this water. They didn't know better. So, I mean, to be put in a place like that is very unfair for people in that town, in that city. So, I definitely think something needs to happen because of that.
It's potentially manslaughter if people see the long-term health effects of this.
Mm-hmm.
People die. This is because of the Department of Environment Quality. So, I mean, I think jobs should be at risk at the least. People should be getting fired. This is your job. It's your career. You were trained to do this. And when clean water shouldn't be in America. We say America is one of the greatest, it's the greatest country in the world. We shouldn't be worrying about clean water as a cost-saving measure. Clean water is a necessity, and if we have an availability for safe drinking water, that is the first thing you should not be making a budget cut on, especially in a city that is impoverished.
Mm-hmm.
When 60% of them are on food stamps, do you really think giving them contaminated water is a decision?
What I think is difficult is that, like, I know that I take water for granted. I've always had water, you know, if I turn on my faucet or I go to the store, grab a bottle of water, you know, it's just there, and they don't have that. They don't have, you know, that's not available to them anymore. And to take a shower, they have to buy a bottle of water. They have to go somewhere else, you know. That's tough. People don't have money to travel to just shower somewhere that has clean, safe water. I mean, or to even cook food.
They don't have money in the first place.
Yeah, it's very sad, like, to say the least, that this is happening, and I think that something definitely needs to be done at a higher level. So.
All right. Obama actually declared a state of emergency for the city and the surrounding county, allowing the Federal Emergency Management Agency to provide up to $5 million in aid, and on January 16th of 2016. Don't you think that should have been earlier?
Well, I mean, there was a 2011 study just on the Flint River. It would have, if they wanted to treat it, they just would have to pay $100 a day, which would just activate an anti-corrosive agent, and that would make the water available and safe to drink. It wouldn't have to be these millions of dollars. If they would have just paid up front, they would have just acknowledged the problem. If they would have just realized this was not sustainable by any means, then this would have all been avoided.
This could have been prevented, and I think the irony of it all is that this problem arose from Flint trying to save money, and now actually the potential outcome is that by the time this crisis is resolved, it'll cost about $54 million. And the governor has requested federal aid of about $28 million. It's gonna pay for things like water bottles, replacement filters, assistance for utility-related issues, which would be the corroded pipes, testing, replacement fixtures in schools. They have a lot of high-risk locations right now, and it's necessary, it's an emergency that they maintain some sort of safety. They need to get that safety back. People don't feel safe living there. You can't cook, drink, shower. They have the National Guard actually bringing bottled water, delivering bottled water to the city of Flint. And it really just baffles me that it could have been prevented by spending the extra dollar. If you want to save money on something, why would water? You use water for everything. You need it to live and safely.
Yeah, I believe that people's health and safety should never be compromised for
Never.
money. I mean, even if a city doesn't have money, find a source of income. I mean, the people of the city should not be taking all of this because of, the city's mistake. I don't think that that's fair.
Well, when we
They
live
didn't
in a
have a shot.
Right, and then when we live in a society now where everybody wants free health care, and, that's gonna cost you a lot more money when you're sick with lead poisoning.
Yeah.
You want free health care, but you're not gonna spend money on healthy water.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. So we're leading off with what caused the lead poisoning.
Well, first off, they wanted to switch from using the Detroit River. That's where they got their resources of their clean water, which was fine. It lasted them for years. It was perfectly fine. But they wanted to switch and save money, so they thought it would be more convenient to switch to the Flint River. And actually, the Flint River is highly corrosive. It's 9 times more so than the Lake Huron supply that they were using prior. And it's just, it's
disappointing to me.
Yes, it is.
I think that
Where'd it go?
I think that in a city of people who, nearly half of them have a lower than average income, over half of them are on food stamps, it makes me wonder, and maybe it's a question for you guys to think about, is it a group of people that are neglected because of their current condition? What do you guys think?
Well, I personally believe that regardless of what race, what social group would be, I think they still would have done this. They still would have the same outcome. They still want to save money. I mean.
So you don't think when Flint is quoted as a majority black city, you don't think it's a matter of discrimination or racism?
I don't believe so, because they were so broke, they needed some way to save money, and they chose the most terrible way.
Sure.
Especially because their service lines to the homes in Flint, they're made out of lead, strictly lead, and because the water wasn't properly treated, lead began leaching into the water supply in addition to the iron that was in it.
And everybody knows what that tastes like, okay? We've all been to, I've been to an old high school where you get drinking water out there and it tastes like, almost like blood. That you can taste that iron in it. It's not difficult to notice a distinct odor, taste, even a discoloration in water. It's not difficult at all. And for the Department of Environmental Quality to deny that and say that the city's jumping to conclusions and basically to call the people of Flint liars. They said, you guys are making premature conclusions, you're overreacting. And I'll use President Obama's quote. He said, if I were a parent in Flint, I'd be beside myself. And I also I'd be beside myself. I wouldn't what would you do? You can't just up and leave the city. You don't have any money, a lot of them. You don't have the money to leave.
You can't just think about the taste of the water either. Not only does it taste terrible, it's the lead poisoning, it's irreversible. This is a mistake that they can never take back.
It is your
The damage to your body, to the health, to the youth, it's just,
Well, you know, you'd think that when they issue a boil advisory all the way back in October of 2014, they would at least take some more precautionary measures and say, hey, we're gonna test this water in depth. We need to make sure this is safe. I don't think this would be happening in Chicago, Illinois. I don't think it'd be happening in New York City. I don't think it'd be happening in the rich neighborhoods and where there's really close attention to the cities. That's just my opinion, but it makes me wonder, I don't understand why it was neglected so much, and it really puts the direction onto the state officials. It really takes that trust away that may not have even been there in the first place. How can you be mad about a decision that was made about your city when you didn't even vote for those officials to be appointed? Who's to blame for that?
That is actually a really good question for the people to ask, or for the people to ask their state government. And my next question is kind of going to be kind of towards that idea is like, how do you go up to a high level of governor or even like a House Representative member that is a part of or is in Michigan? And how do you like go to them and say, can trust them anymore? How can you trust them and respect their word?
Well, when you're a politician, you know you're not trusted. But I think that's just a given. You're part of the government. There's things that people never know. That's my opinion. I think people don't trust the government in general, but I just think that overall it's a very disappointing situation, and it's something that
could have been prevented.
it could have been prevented. And if you're looking to send donations, you can send some bottled water to Flint, Michigan.
Well, I think, do you have anything final response to the situation that's going on right now in Flint, Michigan?
I just can't get over like how sad the situation is. Like these people, they didn't deserve this. They didn't have any way of preventing this themselves. This was strictly on their government, and they trust their government to take care of them, and they didn't. They let them down, and so this is going to affect their futures, their children's futures, the city's future. It's a very important and horrible thing that happened. So I definitely think that something needs to change, and they need to start working on it now, since it's going to take so long to recover the city now. So.
All right, well, thank you for watching River Talk, the first episode of this year. And tune in next week as we will be talking hopefully about any topics of your choice. So you can shoot us on Facebook, River Talk Facebook, or tweet us on River Talk Twitter. So I'm Aaron Henry, and this is Savanah, Heather, and Kylie, and we'll hopefully see you next week.